Good evening, friends. Tonight, I'm taking you somewhere special. In 1920s America, whiskey was contraband. Drugstores made more money selling cardboard box cough syrup than aspirin. It was an absurd era in which everyone rehearsed what to do when the police knocked on the door. If you happen to be holding a drink tonight, you might as well pretend it's contraband from 1925. Now dim the lights, and with the chimes, let's step into tonight's story. The time is 11:50 p.m., January 16th, 1920. You are standing outside a bar on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan, New York, your cheeks stinging from the cold wind outside. The bar is called Jingshi, the most respectable saloon on the street. A mahogany bar, crystal chandeliers, waiters in crisp white shirts. But tonight it is packed, so packed you can barely squeeze in. Because in 10 minutes, the 18th Amendment to the United States Constitution will officially take effect. You probably heard the name in history class, Prohibition. From midnight on January 17th, 1920, the production, transportation, and sale of alcoholic beverages in the United States will all become illegal. Beer will be illegal. Wine will be illegal. Whiskey will be illegal if you brew a little apple cider at home and drink it yourself. Sorry. That will be illegal too. So tonight, bars all across America are hosting the wildest queues in history. You push your way inside. Around you are all kinds of people. Wealthy ladies in fur coats, bankers in top hats, and a few young men who look like college students, raising their glasses and singing badly out of tune. Behind the bar, the bartender is sweating from all the work. Shaking a cocktail shaker, he shouts, "Last 10 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. Drink, drink hard. After this, you'll have nothing but milk." Some people laugh. Some cry. You see a middle-aged man in the corner, clutching a bottle of champagne, tears running into his beard. The woman beside him is trying to comfort him. "Darling, it'll be all right. This is only temporary." But her own voice is trembling too. Above the bar hangs a huge clock. At 11:55, you order a Manhattan. When the bartender hands it to you, his hand is shaking. "This may be the last one I ever mix in my life," he says. "Savor it." You lift the glass. The amber liquid glints in the dim yellow light. Whiskey, vermouth, a dash of Angostura bitters, and a cherry. Perfect. At 11:58, the crowd begins to count down. 2 minutes. Someone yells. The bar suddenly goes quiet. Everyone is staring at the clock. You hear someone sobbing and someone else giggling foolishly. A young man in a suit climbs onto a table, raises his glass, and shouts, "To freedom! To America! To everything we're about to lose!" Then the chimes ring. Midnight, January 17th, 1920, Prohibition officially begins in the United States. A chaotic mixture of cheers and wails erupts in the bar. Some people smash their glasses on the floor. Some kiss their bottles. Some begin singing the national anthem, while others break into Auld Lang Syne. You drink down that Manhattan, the whiskey burns in your throat. And then the door swings open. 3 uniformed policemen walk in. The bar goes silent instantly. The lead officer sweeps his gaze around the room, at the bottles and glasses scattered all over the floor, at the drunken crowd, then clears his throat lightly. "Ladies and gentlemen," he says, "the party is over. This establishment must cease operations immediately. Please leave. No one moves." The officer sighs. "I said, please leave. We'll be back to inspect the place if I see liquor being sold here tomorrow. You can all expect jail." Slowly, the crowd begins to file out, and you go with them. Just before you leave, you glance back, behind the bar. The bartender is carrying every bottle into the storeroom in the back. He moves very slowly, as if conducting some kind of funeral. Outside, the street is full of people. Some are singing, some are crying, some are simply standing there in silence, staring at the sky. It begins to snow, tiny flakes landing on your face, cold as ice. What you do not know is that this is only the beginning. This prohibition will last 13 years, from 1920 to 1933. Historians will later call it the Noble Experiment, but honestly, the name sounds ironic from the start, because what happens next has nothing noble about it. Speakeasies will spring up like mushrooms. Gangsters will become millionaires. Ordinary people will brew homemade liquor in their own homes that can poison them to death. Police will take bribes. Judges will drink heavily. The entire country will turn into one huge absurd theater. And you will learn a new skill: how to turn whiskey into cough syrup in 3 seconds when the police knock on the door. But before that, you first have to learn how to find the speakeasies. On January 18th, 1920, the second day of Prohibition, you walk down the street and find that the city looks almost the same as it did yesterday. The sun rises as usual. People go to work as usual. Newsboys shout on the corners. But something has changed. The bars are closed. You pass Jingxi on 5th Avenue. A notice is posted on the door. Permanently closed, the windows have been boarded up, and the door is secured with a rusting iron chain. You keep walking. Bar after bar looks exactly the same. You think to yourself, all right, so this is the new world now. A world without alcohol sounds healthy, doesn't it? But you soon discover it is not that simple. That afternoon, you go to get a haircut. The barber shop you usually go to is on 3rd Avenue. The owner is an Italian immigrant named Tony, with a thick handlebar mustache. You walk in, he is shaving a customer. When he sees you, he nods. Good afternoon, sir. Just a moment. You sit in the waiting chair, idly flipping through the magazines on the table. The shop is quiet. The only sound is the soft rasp of the razor over stubble. Then you notice a new poster on the wall. It reads, "Alcohol is the root of evil," next to a picture of a devil holding a bottle. You can't help laughing. Tony finishes shaving the customer and pats him on the shoulder. The customer stands up, hands Tony a few bills, then says something under his breath that you do not catch. Tony nods, of course. This way, the two of them head toward a door at the back of the shop. You assume it's the storeroom, but when Tony opens it, you hear music, jazz, piano, and trumpet, and laughter. The door closes again almost immediately. You sit there, stunned for several seconds. When it is your turn, Tony waves you over into the barber chair. He ties the cape around you, picks up his scissors, and asks, "Shorter today?" Puzzled, you ask, "That door in the back way." He puts on an innocent expression. "The storeroom. You've got music in the storeroom?" Tony stops moving. In the mirror, he looks at you. He studies you for a few seconds, as if weighing something. Then he says, "Are you a cop?" "Of course not," you say. He watches you a little longer, then nods. "All right, after your haircut, if you want, I can show you the storeroom. But remember, you didn't see anything. You didn't hear anything, understood?" You nod, and suddenly your heart starts racing. 20 minutes later, Tony finishes your haircut. You pay him. He jerks his chin toward the back door. "Come on." He leads you to the door and knocks 3 times. Pauses. Then knocks twice more. The door opens a crack. One eye appears. "Password," Tony says. "It's raining in Chicago." The door opens. You follow Tony inside and discover that this is no storeroom at all. Behind the door is a narrow staircase descending into dim light. You start down. The stairs are steep, the boards creaking under your feet, and the music grows louder with every step. At the bottom is another door. Tony pushes it open, and the sight before you almost makes you cry out. It is a basement, but it has been transformed into a bar. No, not just a bar, a full nightclub. The ceiling is low. Strewn with colorful lanterns, there are more than a dozen little round tables, all occupied. In the corner is a small stage where a black band is playing jazz. The pianist's slender fingers fly over the keys. The trumpeter plays with his eyes closed. The drummer keeps a lively rhythm. The bar is at the far end of the room, made of dark wood, lined with bottles, real bottles. Whiskey, rum, gin, brandy. A bartender in a vest is mixing cocktails with movements so elegant they look like magic. People are drinking, talking, laughing, dancing on the very second day of Prohibition. Seeing the shock on your face, Tony pats your shoulder and laughs. My friend, did you really think a piece of legislation could make Americans stop drinking? He points at the room. Look at them lawyers, doctors, businessmen, and a few cops I happen to know. You look around, sure enough, 2 men in plain clothes are sitting in the corner. Their build and posture give them away. Yet, they too are holding drinks. How long has this place been here? You ask. A week, Tony says. We prepared in advance. Everybody knew Prohibition was coming, so a lot of people got ready. This basement was already here. It used to store liquor. I just renovated it. He leads you to the bar and orders you a whiskey. When the bartender hands it to you, he winks. New here? You could say that. Then let me explain the rules. First, you have to know the password to get in, and it changes every week. Second, you don't mention this place upstairs, not even to your best friend. Third, if the police come, and I mean really come to make arrests, you use the back door. It leads into the basement of the building next door, and there's an exit onto another street. Fourth, he pauses. Never run up a tab. You nod and take a sip of the whiskey. It tastes just as good as the one you drank at Jinchi the night before. Where does the liquor come from? You ask. Tony. Smuggled in from Canada, he says. Some of it comes through hospitals and drugstores. You know, doctors can prescribe medicinal alcohol, and some of it is homemade. You stay there for an hour, watching people drink and dance as though Prohibition did not exist. The band plays Sweet Georgia Brown. A few couples dance the Charleston. A woman in a sequined dress stands on stage and sings, her voice like melted chocolate. Then you hear knocking, not at the front door, the back door. 3 rapid knocks, the music stops, the whole room falls silent. The man behind the bar, you later learn his name is Frank. The owner raises one hand and says, "Don't panic." He walks to the back door, peers through the peephole, then opens it. A uniformed policeman steps inside. Your heart nearly stops. But Frank just smiles and claps the officer on the shoulder. "Good evening, officer." The policeman looks around and nods. "Business is good. Not bad," Frank says. "Want a drink?" "No, I'm on duty." The policeman pulls an envelope from his pocket and hands it to Frank. "Next week's protection money, same as always, $150. Frank takes the envelope, counts the money inside, and nods. "See you next week then." After the policeman leaves, the music starts up again. People go back to drinking, as if nothing happened. You look at Tony. Tony shrugs. Cops have to make a living too, and honestly, a lot of them want to drink themselves, so. He makes a money-counting gesture. You begin to understand, Prohibition did not eliminate alcohol. Merely drove it underground, turned it into a business, a very profitable business. Over the next few months, you learn to recognize the signs of a speakeasy. The door behind a barber shop, the basement stairs under a laundry, the revolving bookshelf in a bookstore, the wine cellar beneath a flower shop. They are everywhere, hidden in every corner of the city like secrets. During Prohibition, New York City alone had somewhere between 30,000 and 100,000 speakeasies. No one knows the exact number because they were always opening, closing, changing names, and moving locations. But one thing is certain. After Prohibition took effect, Americans drank even more than before. That may be one of the greatest ironies in history. Once, you go to a speakeasy on 7th Avenue. The bouncer is a huge black man with arms as thick as tree trunks. The place is exquisitely decorated with velvet wallpaper and crystal lamps. But the most striking feature is the mirror behind the bar. It covers the entire wall, making the basement look twice as large. Later, you learn it is a two-way mirror, if the police ever really raid the place. The bartender presses a button and the shelves behind the bar flip around, revealing racks full of tea and lemon juice. The real liquor is hidden in compartments behind the mirror. It is here that you meet a woman named Mona. She always wears a black evening gown, with bright red lips and blonde hair styled in waves. She is a regular. One evening she says to you, "Do you know what's funniest? Before Prohibition, I never drank. I was a good girl. And now?" She lifts her glass and swirls it. "Now I come 3 times a week. Because it feels like doing something bad, and doing something bad is thrilling." I think that is the problem with Prohibition. The more you forbid something, the more people want it, especially if it used to be legal. She is right. Prohibition turned drinking into an act of rebellion. Something fashionable, underground, full of adventure. Especially for women. Before Prohibition, respectable women did not go to bars. Bars were men's territory, full of smoke and profanity. Speakeasies were different. They were secret, and they were egalitarian. Men and women sat at the same tables, drank the same drinks, listened to the same music. And many speakeasies had ladies' night, usually on Wednesdays, when women drank for half price because owners discovered that where there were women, male customers spent more money. One night, you are at another speakeasy on 3rd Avenue. It is in the basement of a tailor's shop. The decor is plain, but the liquor is good. You are drinking a gin and tonic when suddenly you hear a huge crash upstairs. Raid! Someone shouts. Instant chaos. People leap to their feet, looking for exits. Bartenders begin frantically clearing bottles off the counter. Some pour liquor down the sink. Some stuff bottles into bags. You are still standing there holding your gin and tonic, not knowing what to do. "Quick!" says a man beside you. He snatches your glass and dumps the drink into a potted plant. "Come with me." He leads you and a dozen others to a door at the back. Behind it is a narrow passageway with brick walls on both sides and low pipes overhead. You run through the darkness. The only light is the weak flicker from the lighter in the hand of the person ahead of you. Behind you come the shouts of police and sirens. The passage is long, maybe 100 meters. Your lungs burn. Your heart feels ready to burst. At last you reach the far end. The man pushes open a rusty iron door, and suddenly you are standing on another street. The cold wind on your face feels like rebirth. The crowd disperses into the night. The next day, you see the story in the newspaper. Police raided that speakeasy and arrested 5 people, those who were too slow to get out. They will be fined, maybe spend a few days in jail. The owner will be fined more heavily, maybe do several months. But a week later, the place is open again. A new name, a new password, but the same location, and the same people drinking there. That is the survival rule of the speakeasy. Shut down, reopen, get raided, come back, play cat and mouse, and there are always more mice. Once you almost get arrested, that night you are in a newly opened speakeasy. The police really come, not the sort who come to collect money, but the sort who come to make arrests. You run with everyone else, but in the chaos you slam into a table and fall to the floor. A policeman grabs your arm. "Get up. You're under arrest." Your heart is pounding so hard it feels ready to explode. And then, at that very moment, the bartender shouts, "Fire!" Not a real fire. He has only ignited a bottle of alcohol on the bar. Flames leap up suddenly, lighting the whole room. The policeman lets go of you instinctively and rushes toward the fire. You seize the chance, spring to your feet, and bolt for the back door. You get away that night, back home. You sit on your bed with your hands still shaking. You realize that this game is not just thrilling, it is dangerous, and strangely enough, that only makes you want to keep playing. Because forbidding something often makes it more alluring. Which brings us to one of the most absurd loopholes of the Prohibition era: medicinal alcohol. Under the Volstead Act, doctors were allowed to prescribe alcohol for medical purposes. In theory, this was for patients who genuinely needed alcohol as treatment heart patients, for instance, or for disinfecting wounds. In practice, it became one of the biggest loopholes of all. Doctors wrote prescriptions like MAD, cough, whiskey, insomnia, brandy, indigestion, rum, anxiety, gin. It seemed any ailment at all could be treated with alcohol. Some doctors wrote hundreds of prescriptions a day. They hung signs outside their offices: prescription service, $3 each you walk in, and say you cannot sleep. 5 minutes later, you walk out with a prescription and can go to the drugstore to collect whiskey. And the drugstores, they turn into gold mines. You begin to notice that Mr. Baker, the druggist, has suddenly become very rich. He buys a new car, a bright blue Cadillac. He remodels his pharmacy with new marble counters and more shelving. His wife starts wearing fur coats. One day, you cannot resist asking him, "Business is good, huh?" He smiles. In a lowered voice, he tells you that before Prohibition, he sold maybe 50 bottles of medicinal alcohol a year. Now he sells 500 a month. And although the government knows perfectly well what is going on, it cannot close the loophole. It cannot ban medicinal alcohol outright, because that would hurt genuine patients. So it turns a blind eye, but doctors and drugstores are not the only ones who profit. Religious institutions discover an opportunity too. Under the law, churches may buy sacramental wine for religious ceremonies. Each parish can legally obtain a certain amount of wine each year. After Prohibition takes effect, however, hundreds and thousands of new churches suddenly spring up all across America. Some are real churches, some are merely basements rented out, furnished with a few chairs and a cross. A friend of yours joins one of them. It is called the Church of the Benevolent Saints, which sounds authentic enough. But in reality, their service consists of gathering every Sunday night to drink. You think back to the original intentions of Prohibition supporters. They wanted a healthier, more moral, safer America. They wanted to eliminate the domestic violence and poverty caused by alcoholism. And what did they get instead? Counterfeit liquor, corrupt doctors, fake churches, and tens of thousands of ordinary people risking poisoning, arrest, or death for a single drink. The world is growing more and more insane, and the craziest part is still to come. One day your landlady, a kindly old woman, knocks on your door. "Dear," she says, "I'd like to use your bathtub. Mine is clogged." You stare at her. Now? She smiles. If it's convenient, you let her in. But you are puzzled. Why not call a plumber? She goes into the bathroom and closes the door. You hear the tap running. 10 minutes later, she comes out carrying a large bottle filled with a clear liquid. That night, in your kitchen, you hear strange sounds coming from upstairs, liquid being poured into containers, glass bottles clinking, and a sharp smell: alcohol mixed with lemon. The next morning, you run into the tenant upstairs on the stairway. A young accountant with glasses who looks harmless enough. He greets you, glances around, lowers his voice, and says, "If you need gin, knock on my door." Good quality, fair prices, and suddenly you understand. He is making liquor at home. That weekend, curiosity gets the better of caution. You go to the library and find a book published in 1918 titled Home Brewing Guide. The book is old, its pages yellowed, but very detailed. You have also heard of homemade hard liquor, so you decide to try it yourself. The ingredients are simple: alcohol, juniper berries, water, and a large container. And what is the ideal container? A bathtub. Thus was born the term bathtub gin. You close the bathroom door and lay out your ingredients. 1 gallon of industrial alcohol, with a label warning not for drinking, but you have heard many people use it anyway. A bag of juniper berries from the drugstore. Some lemon peel for flavor. And sugar to mask the bitter taste of the alcohol. You pour water into the tub, add the alcohol, then the other ingredients, and wait. In theory, you should wait several days for the flavors to blend. But you are impatient. 1 hour later, you taste it. The flavor, well, how to put it? It tastes like a mixture of pine trees and disinfectant. Hot, bitter, but undeniably alcoholic. Success, you think. What you do not know is how dangerous what you have just done really is. Industrial alcohol often contains toxic substances, methanol, wood alcohol, and other chemicals. These can blind you, paralyze you, even kill you. Professional distillation can remove these toxins. But in a bathtub, you are basically gambling, and all across America, millions of people are making the same gamble. During Prohibition, home brewing becomes a national pastime. People brew beer in basements, make wine in kitchens, mix gin in bathtubs. Some know what they are doing. Most do not. You begin hearing all kinds of horror stories. A man drinks homemade whiskey and wakes up blind the next day. Methanol poisoning, the doctor says. Permanent. A family is making liquor in the basement. Alcohol vapor causes an explosion. The house burns. 3 people die. A batch of bathtub gin is sent to a speakeasy. 12 people who drink it end up in the hospital. 3 do not make it. And yet the horror stories do not stop people, because making your own liquor has several huge advantages. First, it is cheap. A gallon of industrial alcohol costs only $2 and can yield 10 bottles of gin. In a speakeasy, 1 glass of gin costs $1 second. It is relatively safe, not from a health standpoint, but from a legal one. Technically, home brewing is illegal, but the police are less likely to raid an ordinary person's house. They are busy going after speakeasies and large-scale smugglers. Third, it gives people a sense of control in a world where the government tells you that you cannot drink. Making your own liquor is an act of defiance, a way of saying, you don't control me, so people keep experimenting with all kinds of recipes. Some add potato starch, claiming it makes vodka purer. Some ferment grape juice into wine, then distill it on the radiator, extremely dangerous, and a frequent cause of fires. The most ridiculous story of all is the one about non-alcoholic beer. Prohibition allows beer with an alcohol content below 0.5%, so breweries begin producing this near beer. But they also provide a small bottle of beer extract, with instructions saying, warning, do not add this extract to non-alcoholic beer, or it will turn into real beer, which is illegal. And what do you think people do? Of course, they add the extract immediately. You remember an advertisement you saw in a hardware store for grape bricks. It says, warning, do not soak in water for 21 days and then drink, or it will turn into wine. That is like saying, this is poison, don't drink it, and then watching everyone rush out to buy it. The next day, you see a newspaper article. Poisonings from homemade liquor surge. Federal government warns of danger. The article says that in 1927, around 5,000 people died from drinking bad moonshine, and tens of thousands more suffered injuries of various kinds: blindness, paralysis, organ damage. Yet even in the face of those numbers, people keep brewing in bathtubs. Because what is the alternative? Not drink. Impossible. Go to a speakeasy? Too expensive and you might still get fake liquor. Buy smuggled genuine liquor? Even more expensive and you might get arrested. So the safest option, strangely enough, is to risk making it yourself. During Prohibition, at least 1 million American households brew alcohol at home. It creates a strange culture. Neighbors exchange recipes. Friends compare whose liquor tastes better at parties, and some people even begin selling home brewing kits. The entire country turns into one enormous underground distillery. One night, you pour your carefully mixed bathtub gin down the drain. You are afraid this unsafe liquor may cost you your life. But elsewhere in the city, in thousands upon thousands of bathtubs, people continue their dangerous experiments. Lately, you begin noticing a certain type of person appearing in the speakeasies. They always wear expensive three-piece suits, tie pins gleaming. When they enter, others step aside. They never wait in line. The best table is always ready for them. Bartenders serve them faster than anyone else. And they always have bodyguards, big men with blank expressions, with something bulky obviously hidden under their jackets. One Saturday night, you are at the Pearl Club, an upscale speakeasy on 9th Avenue. You sit at the bar with a mediocre whiskey sour in hand, watching the door. Then they come in, 4 men. The one in front is about 35. Medium built, dark hair slicked back, with a scar running from his ear to his jaw. He is wearing a navy blue suit that looks more expensive than anything else in the room. The music does not stop, but the conversation drops. Heads turn, then quickly turn away again, pretending not to have seen anything. The owner of the bar immediately hurries over, a tight smile on his face. "Mr. Scalfis, welcome, welcome. Your table is ready." They move to a round table in the corner, the best spot, with a view of the entire room and every exit. 3 bodyguards take up positions around it, motionless as statues. Scalfis sits down and snaps his fingers within 3 seconds. A bottle of fine scotch appears on the table, along with 5 clean glasses. You turn to the bartender and lower your voice. "Who is that?" The bartender looks at you as though you have just asked the stupidest question in the world. "You don't know Scalfis. Should you?" He sighs. He's a businessman in this area. He controls the supply for at least 20 speakeasies, including this one. So he's a smuggler? He's the boss. The smugglers work for him. The bartenders work for him. The police work for him. The bartender wipes a glass. His eyes on the counter. Best not to mess with him. And don't stare at him too long. But you cannot help stealing glances. Scaffi is speaking with 2 other men in low voices. You cannot hear what they are saying, but his gestures are forceful, pointing, emphasizing, sometimes tapping the table. A businessman in negotiation. This is one of the most unexpected consequences of Prohibition. Before Prohibition, America already had gangs, of course, but they mostly dealt in small-scale illegal activities: gambling, prostitution, theft. Prohibition gives them an entirely new business opportunity. Huge, fresh, and incredibly profitable. Because all at once, a legal multi-billion-dollar industry, the alcohol industry, becomes illegal. And who is best at running illegal businesses? Criminal organizations. In the 1920s, gangs begin taking over the production, transportation, and sale of bootleg liquor. They have organization, money, weapons, and officials who are not afraid to use violence. The most famous example is the Chicago mob boss, who builds his criminal empire on bootleg alcohol. By the late 1920s, his organization is making around $60 million a year, equivalent to billions today. He controls every link in the supply chain: smuggling, storage, distribution, even the bars themselves. Anyone who tries to compete is warned. If the warning does not work, he is beaten If the beating does not work, he is killed. During Prohibition, Chicago's murder rate climbs dramatically, much of it driven by turf wars between gangs. You have heard of the St. Valentine's Day Massacre of 1929. A mob boss's men, dressed as police officers, rake 7 members of a rival gang with machine gun fire in a garage, leaving blood everywhere and bodies piled up. The gangs have different names, but they work the same way. Scaffis represents one of New York's crime families. They control most of the speakeasies on the east side of Manhattan, along with the smuggling routes. You look at him and imagine his daily life. He wakes in the morning, puts on an expensive suit, eats a substantial breakfast, then goes to an office, perhaps in a business that looks legitimate on the surface, like a laundry or a restaurant. There he meets with his employees, smugglers, bartenders, enforcers. He discusses business, that new speakeasy on Fifth Avenue who is supplying it. Why are 3 crates missing from the shipment unloaded at the Brooklyn docks? Has someone dealt with the bar owner who refuses to pay protection money? Then, at night, he tours his territory, the speakeasies that work for him, drinks for free, collects cash, makes sure everyone stays obedient. It is a business, a wildly profitable business, and it is built entirely on one law, a law prohibiting alcohol. Suddenly, your thoughts are interrupted. Scaffis stands up. He walks straight toward the bar, straight toward you. Your heart nearly stops. He looks at you with dark eyes that feel like an X-ray scan. "My friend," he says, "you've been looking at me," you stammer. I haven't," he smiles, but the smile never reaches his eyes. "I don't mind being admired. I do mind being watched. You're not a cop, are you?" You hurry to explain. "I'm not a cop. I'm just curious." He studies you for a few seconds, then nods. "Curiosity. I understand." He snaps his fingers. The bartender immediately hands him a glass of fine whiskey. "Not the cheap swill you are drinking. This one is on me." Scaffis looks directly into your eyes and continues. "But in here, there are some things it is better not to be too curious about. Understood? Understood?" You say, your voice trembling slightly. "Good. Enjoy your evening." He pats your shoulder and walks back to his table. You lift the glass of whiskey, your hand shaking faintly, and take a sip. It tastes unbelievably good, smooth, complex, with notes of oak and caramel. Genuine Scotch, probably worth $50 a bottle. But in your mouth, it tastes like fear, because just now you saw, up close, that the real story is not the alcohol. It is the people, the ones who turned illegality into business, violence into a tool, and the whole city into their territory. And without Prohibition, would organized crime ever have become so powerful? Probably not. Prohibition gave the gangs everything they needed: enormous demand, enormous profits, and a reason to play cat and mouse with law enforcement. It turned thieves into entrepreneurs, thugs into businessmen, and murderers into millionaires. And the most ironic part is that many ordinary people admire these mob bosses, because during the Great Depression they opened free soup kitchens and feed thousands of unemployed people. What people forget is that these same men also killed hundreds. That night, as you leave the Pearl Club, you glance back. Scaffis is still seated at his table, surrounded by bodyguards and subordinates. He looks like a king. The speakeasy is his palace, and elsewhere in the city, there are dozens, hundreds more men like him, each building a little empire with smuggled liquor and threats of violence. Prohibition was supposed to create a more moral America. What it created instead was a golden age of crime, and you, a perfectly ordinary person who just wanted a drink, have found yourself living in a world ruled by gangsters. A world full of danger, secrecy, and violence. But honestly, you will still come back, because that whiskey was really very good. By 1932, you begin noticing some changes. The conversations in speakeasies are different now. Once, people talked about jazz, the stock market, the newest films. Now they talk about unemployment, breadlines, and the coming election. Because the Great Depression has arrived, the stock market crashed in 1929, and the economic collapse that followed shattered America. Banks fail, factories close, millions lose their jobs, breadlines stretch for blocks through the city. Hungry people waiting for free food. Against that backdrop, Prohibition begins to seem even more absurd. One night, the government worries about us drinking. A man beside you says, bitterness in his voice, but it doesn't worry about us starving. He is right. The federal government spends tens of millions of dollars every year enforcing prohibition, hiring agents to raid speakeasies, destroy smuggled liquor while millions of Americans are homeless and unemployed. People begin to ask, is this really money well spent? And then the economic argument emerges. If alcohol were legal, it could be taxed. Tax revenue could help the government address the economic crisis. Some economists estimate that repealing prohibition could bring the federal government billions of dollars a year in alcohol taxes. During the Depression, that could be life-saving money. And jobs matter too. Prohibition wiped out an entire alcohol industry. Distilleries, breweries, taverns, liquor stores. Hundreds of thousands of legal jobs disappeared. If prohibition were repealed, those jobs could come back. With unemployment near 25%, every job matters. So the movement to repeal prohibition begins to gather force. You can see the shift. Newspapers begin publishing editorials in favor of repeal. Politicians openly question the wisdom of prohibition. Even some organizations that once supported it begin changing their stance. The presidential election of 1932 becomes the turning point. The incumbent president, Herbert Hoover, supports continuing prohibition. His challenger, Franklin Roosevelt, promises that if elected, he will push to repeal it. On election day that November, you vote alongside millions of other Americans. For many people, this vote is not just about the presidency. It is about beer. Roosevelt wins in a landslide. That night, you watch the election results in a speakeasy. When Roosevelt's victory is announced, the room erupts in cheers. Beer is coming back. Someone shouts, "Long live freedom." Another yells. People raise their glasses. The band begins to play "Happy Days Are Here Again," Roosevelt's campaign song. People dance, embrace strangers, celebrate the historic moment. But repeal does not happen overnight. To repeal prohibition, the 18th Amendment itself must be repealed. That requires another constitutional amendment, the 21st Amendment. That takes time. Congress must vote. Then the states must ratify it. But everyone knows by now that it is only a matter of time. During this waiting period, an interesting thing happens. Enforcement slackens. Police stop raiding speakeasies. Prohibition agents stop aggressively pursuing smugglers. After all, they know that in a few months, all of this will be legal. What is the point? Speakeasies grow bolder. Some even begin advertising in newspapers coded language, of course. But everyone knows what social club and private dinner mean. Some even hang signs outside the door. At the Bluebird Club you frequent, a poster appears in the window, celebrating the freedom to come. Special cocktail prices. The whole city waits, holding its breath. Then in March 1933, Roosevelt is inaugurated. One of the first things he does is push Congress to amend the Volstead Act to allow the sale of beer and wine containing up to 3.2% alcohol. Technically, it is not full repeal yet, but it is a major step. This is called the Cullen-Harrison Act, and it takes effect on April 7, 1933. That day becomes known as New Beer's Day. On the evening of April 6, you and thousands of others gather in the streets. Breweries prepare to ring in the start of legal sales at midnight. People carry empty cups, empty bottles, waiting for the first legal beer. At midnight, the crowd cheers, trucks roll out from the breweries, loaded with beer. People rush forward to buy the long-awaited drink. Some crack open cans on the spot and gulp them down. Some cry, 13 years, says an old man beside you, tears running over his wrinkled face. 13 years I haven't had a legal beer. He opens a can, takes a deep drink, and lets out a long sigh. Worth the wait. But this is not total victory yet. Hard liquor whiskey, gin, rum is still illegal. To end prohibition completely, the 21st Amendment still has to be ratified. Throughout 1933, the states vote one after another to approve it. You follow the progress in the newspapers. Illinois approves. New York approves. Pennsylvania approves. 36 states are needed for the amendment to take effect. On December 5, 1933, Utah becomes the 36th state to ratify it. Prohibition is officially over. That night, celebrations erupt across the country. In New York, Times Square is packed. Bands play, people dance. Fireworks burst in the sky. You return to what used to be the Emerald Club, once a speakeasy. But now the doors are thrown open, and a huge banner hangs in the window. We're legal now, you walk in. The place is crowded with revelers, but the mood is strangely mixed, excited, yet nostalgic. Because something has been lost. The sense of secrecy, the sense of adventure, the thrill of doing something forbidden. It is gone. Now drinking is legal. Ordinary, boring that night, you raise a completely legal glass of whiskey, genuine Scotch, purchased through legitimate channels, stamped with a tax seal. It tastes the same as smuggled whiskey, but it feels entirely different. What was the impact of Prohibition? For 13 years, it did not make Americans stop drinking. On the contrary, it created an underground empire, made gangs rich and powerful, corrupted law enforcement, caused tens of thousands of deaths and injuries from fake liquor, and wasted billions of dollars in public funds. It may have been one of the largest social experiments in American history. And it failed, but in its failure, it revealed some profound truths about human nature, about desire, about resistance, and about what happens when you try to control too much. You finish your whiskey and smile. 13 years of madness are finally over. The days after December 5th, 1933, feel strange. You walk down the street and see bars opening, real bars. The kind with operating licenses with legally open signs in the windows. Some former speakeasies become legitimate saloons. Others close forever. Those secret entrances, those passwords, those hidden staircases, they all become relics of history. You go into a newly opened bar. It is respectable, brightly lit. The bartender wears a clean uniform and hands you a menu, a real menu, listing prices and types of liquor. What'll it be? He asks politely. A Manhattan? He mixes it professionally, but something is missing. That urgency of the speakeasy. That feeling that you are taking a risk. It is gone. You take a sip. The taste is perfect, but inside you feel a kind of emptiness. You go back to Tony's barbershop, the place where you first stepped into the world of speakeasies. The shop is still there. Tony is still cutting hair. But when you ask about downstairs, he shakes his head. Closed. No need anymore. Want to see it? He leads you downstairs. The staircase is still there, but the lights are out. You go down by flashlight. He opens the door. The room is empty. All the furniture is gone. The bar is gone. The lanterns are gone. Even the stage has been dismantled. All that remains is the bare basement. A few scraps of faded wallpaper on the walls. A few stains on the floor. Used to be a good place, Tony says. And there's longing in his voice. Do you miss it? Every day, he says. Not because of the money, though the money was good, but because of the feeling. We were doing something important. We were resisting. We were building a secret world. And now? Now, he says with a smile edged in bitterness, now I'm just a barber.